Kia ora e te whānau. Well, here we are. Here's our little bundle stash of pages that we've made. Building nicely, sitting together nicely. And today we're going to make this one, which has oodles of writing space. Lots and lots and lots. And it sits reasonably flat too for what it is, so I'm quite happy about that. So when it's closed, it's not too bad, probably about 5mm there. And we will be decorating it all, the labels, everything. I will make these. I have made them before, so I'll put a timestamp in so that you can skip past. So if you've got the Come Make With Me pack or you've been following along with your own stash, welcome back. I'm happy to have you here. Get comfy, settle in, and let's go. I will put in another timestamp here because I'm just going to explain what the Come Make With Me is for anyone that's new. So if you already know this, I've put a little timestamp for you to skip forward so you don't have to listen to this part. So this is a journal. If you're new here, and we are going to make the whole thing from beginning to end, and there are packs available, but you do not have to use the packs. I have made it so that you could just take the page ideas and make it with your own stash and make your own journal. I've just recently been sent photos of one of a lady who has used her strawberry red stash that she's had for ages, and she's using one of these series to make it out of that stash because she finally feels like she can get it out and give it a go, which I think is amazing. If you get the Come Make With Me pack, all the things that I'm able to scan, for example, the backgrounds that I've made, the bits and pieces, the word together, the playing cards, the butterflies, each week on the video has its own folder, and all of those little bits and pieces, the gel print backgrounds, etc., are then in that folder so that you can print them off and make the project. There are certain things that obviously I can't scan due to copyright, or like lace, I can't scan lace. These are all scanned in the folder. I have some music paper in there. For this example for this week, that and the flaps, and these to create these, if you've got resin or glossy accents, these little tags, they're all in the folder, ready to go, ready to print, and then you can make it to look like this one, but you don't have to. So that's the Come Make With Me. And then if you just decide, well, hey, I just really like those typewriter keys, they're individuals, digitals. So if you just wanted those, you can get those. And then if you want, there's an option as well that not only gets you the ones that we've used, but if this was a collection of, say, 5 collage backgrounds, you get the whole all the individual packs as well. So there you go, that's what this is all about. It's either just follow along, grab a cup of tea, get cozy and make with what you've got at home, or if you do want to make one like this, that option is there as well, and I'll have all the details in the description below. But I just enjoy having your company, so don't think that if you're making with your own stash I'm not happy to have you here, because it's just the company that I love, and the fact that I get the comments that say, oh my gosh, I tried that and it turned out really well. That is my whole purpose. So now let's get on with the making. Okay, so these digitals are in the Come Make With Me folder for this week. This isn't something I've done before, so here's hoping that this video goes live and it actually worked, because I'll be making these the first time after making the digital today. So all I'm going to do is I am going to, for now, just cut out this one and this one and that one and that one, the flips, and then I'll pop back once I've done that, and I'll probably just quickly ink the outside as well. Okay, so those cut out and inked. Was it fun cutting around those circles? No, but don't worry about it, because the ink, when you ink, because the ink isn't perfect, it hides a multitude of sins with how you cut circles, so don't worry about it. So I'm just going to quickly put these into my creasing board and crease down that flap, which is at 3/4 of an inch. And we do need to do that little bit first so that when we stick the lined paper on the back, we can fold this little bit up. Okay, and then I will just ink those parts there. And then just grab, even just plain lined paper will be absolutely fine. I've just got some coffee dyed notebook paper. And what we want to do is we actually want to fold this back this way. And we want to glue this guy on down the bottom, because we want a flap of paper up there as well. So I've got my like Fabri-Tac glue as well, GLOO. Is what they call it in New Zealand. So I don't want to glue the flap right now. I do want to glue, sorry, the tab on the flap. I do want to glue all of this, and usually I'll just use glue stick for the most part, and then just add a little bit of this glue just for the outside. So I'm just going to show you how to do one of these on camera, because you don't need to sit here watching me do the same thing 4 times. And then I will go off camera and I will just do the other 4. Okay, so that is just going to go on there like that. And unfortunately you do have to cut it out twice, and I mean, if you've got a big enough paper and you can fit 2 to a page, then yeah, you'd probably get away with it. I'm going to do 2 in coffee paper, I think, and then I'm going to do 2 just with ledger paper. So they're a little bit different when they flip up, so we can see how that looks. Now what we need to do is grab a ruler, and I am just going to rip right up the side there. You can cut it if you want to. And same here, but I will just put a little snip into the corner. I'm just lining it up. We can tidy it up if we need to. I'm just lining it up with the edge of the folio. So then, when we fold that down, this flap is going to go through the slit that we cut in the paper, and when this folds up, there'll be more paper there. So I'm just going to rip the bottom of it slightly shy of what it needs to be. Just like that, so that when that flips up, you're going to have that much writing space. Okay. Right, I'll do the other 3 and I'll come back. Okay, so they now all have, and I just alternated the ledger versus the note paper, and I was going to, because I didn't want to see these when you flip them up, so I didn't want it to look like that. I mean, you could decorate them, but what I'm thinking, and that's why I was going to cut slits, so this is an alternative, cut little slits through there 2 centimeters apart, stick the flap in there, and then you could either cover the back page, or you could make this piece that has the slits a completely separate piece and glue the whole thing on. But I'm actually going to change my mind, and instead I am going to glue that as per normal, and then when I've got the next one on, like that, I'm just going to glue this part, and that paper will then just have a fold up like that, and we won't see the flap. But these are, I have made them so that they've got the little ring around them. These are my typewriter keys, and I have put them in the Come Make With Me folder already. So you might already have made some. So I have, it didn't show on the digital that I showed you in the beginning, but I have put LOVE of these typewriter keys in this size on that digital that I cut out that had this on it. And I have done videos before where I show how to do this with resin. You might not have the rings. You could just glossy accent over top of the L. You might have resin. You might want to resin it. You might not have the rings, so you might just use one or the other. But I'll just quickly show you how I do that resining process, and I'll put in a timestamp so that if you've seen this, you can fast forward it to the next part. Okay, so this is the digital I'm talking about that's already in the Come Make With Me. And first thing I do is I get, and I better measure those for you. They are, and they will be in mils, I would say, on Temu. They're about 1.75 mils and almost one, yeah, they're one on the inside diameter of the ring, 1 centimetre or 10 mils. So first thing I do is, this just helps stop the resin seeping out from underneath the ring, because when the resin heats up, it tends to go a little bit more liquid, and sometimes I've noticed that it seeps out from underneath the ring, which, I mean, you can cut off, it's just a little bit more of a pain, so I prefer to do it this way. So I will stick my rings on, and they will be there probably for about 30-40 minutes, because I do want that glue to dry, because that makes when you cut it out easier as well. If you've got wet glue, you've got wet resin, it's not fun, it gets all over your fingers. So there's still a few on here that have been sitting there. The glue has set. So then you get your resin or your glossy accents, if that's what you've got. And I'm only going to do one because I don't want to keep you here forever. And I do like to, like, you can fill the rings so that they're a dome and the resin's quite full, or you can fill them so that they're not quite as full, and then they kind of, is it concave? And I feel that looks more like a typewriter button, because they kind of had that little finger divot in them. Now the reason why I wave a lighter over it is because it pops any air bubbles, which makes your life a lot easier. And then standard, and I won't show you this part, I just put this on for 3 minutes. Then I do turn this over and just do the back, so I will pop back and show you that little part and why. Okay, so I have put that on for 3 lots of 60 seconds, and you'll just notice on the back that you can just slightly see through where the resin's starting to come through the paper. So I'm just going to do one, maybe 1 or 2 on the back as well, all right, just to make sure, and then I will come back and we'll cut them out. Okay, then the easy part, and I'm just going to, so you might have done these, you might already have LOVE in your stash, but if not, so that you don't have to print out all of them. Now I have printed that on gloss photo paper or card, and I did print these on matte photo card. So I better just say that. So then instead of cutting like this around the ring, I turn my scissors on the side and I just knock that bottom pair up against the edge of the ring, and that allows me to cut a reasonable circle and more so past the edge so that you can't see it. And then I just chop off any little corners that I can see, and then you've got a little typewriter key. So here's an example of one that I actually kind of overfilled versus one, and hopefully you can see if I turn it on the side. That one kind of has a dome shape to it. This one is a lot, you can see more of the ring around the outside and the resin's not meeting the top of the ring, and I feel like that looks more convincing as a typewriter key. So next step, and by the way, the page that we're going to be putting these onto is on this folio. So if you made this one's going to go on this side. So I'm going to stick those on first because I'll have a little bit more flexibility if they're not already stuck to the page. Because they've got paper on the bottom, they are super easy to glue on. And they should cover those exactly. Now, do you have to do that? Absolutely not. Is the LOV already on the digital? It absolutely is. So you don't have to be as pedantic as me. You can just leave them as is. I just like the look of that. I think that's going to be cute. So when I'm sticking them on, there is not an awful lot of room on the page left. So these do need to knock up against each other. I was originally thinking they could be quite far apart, but considering the size I've made the digitals, they're going to need to be quite close together. So about there, and then I'm just going to put them on, and that's going to tell me about where I need to glue this first one. And as long as the first one's straight, we will be good. So I'm thinking I will take them right down to the bottom of the page. And they need to be about 2 centimeters if you're going to measure and not do the faffing like I am. They need to be about 2 centimeters apart as you're gluing them, and that's about 3/4 of an inch, because that is the size of, to make that clearance between where you're sticking the top of this. You'll see what I mean in a second. So the first one, we squish those down and line that up. Our first one's going to be about there. So now if I take those out carefully and I turn this around, I can make sure by eye that that's reasonably straight. And I think I'm happy with that. And what I mean by the 2 centimeters is from here to where you stick the next one, so that it still shows, should be 2 centimeters or 3/4 of an inch. See? And as you can see, it's actually almost, well, it is, it's that measurement there. I think I'm just going to leave, just see this little slither in here, just so that it doesn't quite knock on there. So maybe about, yeah, that much, which it would only be about 2 mils, or maybe is that about 1/8 of an inch? So I'll just do this quietly so that I can fast forward it while I show you the rest of sticking them on. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to do to obviously cover these is I just want to glue those down and have that fold there so that it can still flip up. So when that comes down, your little flap is covered, but you can still use that side to write as well. So it gives us quite a bit of writing space. So I'm just going to quickly glue the rest of those three down. That you definitely don't need to watch. And then we'll pop back and I'll be doing some more decorating. Okay? Now the last one I am going to glue right down, because I don't see any point in having the little flip up. There's already plenty of writing space, and this will mean that we don't have space that we've got to fill. So he is just going to go right down like that. Yeah, he's a little bit wonky. I'm okay with that. Things don't need to be perfect. Okay, so now the decorating. Now I only want to decorate the top one really, because I don't want these to be bulky and be sitting up like this. So while I am going to put something on those, it is going to be quite flat, whereas this one we can be a little bit more decorative. Now this is something that I do. I hate sewing buttons onto like the actual thing, especially like now if I think, oh, that needs a button, and trying to sew it through there is a pain. To sew it onto just to thread through the button and then try and glue it is a little bit risky. I mean, the cotton will glue to paper, but there's not that much cotton on the back, and the plastic doesn't generally adhere very well for me. So what I do, I used to just punch out a circle and then sew the circle, but then I was just watching Netflix last night and I grabbed a whole lot of buttons and I just sewed them to an old piece of end paper out of a book, and I had to change threads. That's the only reason that's not a one thread. And then I'm just going to cut through here, snip through here when I want one, and I have got a bit of PVA glue and put the PVA glue on those knots so that when I snip these they won't unravel through. So there's something you can do just when you're sitting by the telly, and then you can just rip them off the paper, and either you can leave the the scrappy paper around it and ink the edges, or you can get the scissors and cut around it just like I did with these guys. But yeah, I thought that was handy. Okay, so we got that photo that I want to put on this. You could put any photo. You might have a little bunch of photos in your stash. You can do whatever you like. I have printed this on glossy again because I like the way it looks like an actual photo. And I'm just going to I'll grab my scissors. I'm just going to rough it up a little bit because I don't want it to look like a brand new photo. There we go. There we are. Now we look a bit more vintage. I was thinking I did want some lace as well, so I might just quickly grab my lace. This is my favourite box. I have plenty of boxes, but this is my antique lace box. So let's have a look. Maybe this one or this one. I use this so sparingly, this box. Maybe that one is a little bit too much. I think a little bit of this could be quite lovely. I might just, maybe that needs to be something that rips that way. So I'll grab yeah, so I need about 2.5 of those, which means I'm going to have to cut that down the middle, but that's all right. Now, obviously, you are just going to use whatever you have in your stash. Going to ink that guy. And honestly, other than maybe a little button, which, see how the cream is going to blend right in. I'm actually thinking maybe these little guys. Now, do I leave them on the paper or do I get rid of the paper? That is a good question. I think it's quite cute on the paper. Let's see what it looks like with a bit of an ink. Yeah, I think that's quite cute, just like that. Okay, so let's glue that down. And yeah, you could just, I mean, these are already decorated, collaged fronts, so you don't have to do anything to them. You might have just made them yourself based on the shape. You might not even have those little sticky out bits. This is all about just making a whole journal, sitting, crafting together, faffing around, and whether that's with your own stash or whether you're actually doing the follow along craft with me, the whole journal. I just enjoy your company and your comments and the lovely things that you leave me saying, oh, this is the first journal I've made, or it's why I do this. There's so many courses out there and things that you have to pay for. I thought, well, let's do a whole journal course, but let's just make it free. Let's just put it on YouTube, and then if people use their own stash, it is completely free. Okay, and I always like to keep this bottle topped up, because so if it gets down to about here, I fill it. I don't wait till it gets to the end, otherwise it gets to be a real pain waiting for the glue to come down, and it's starting to get to that point now that it wants to be a pain. I'm just going to hold that for a second since it's going onto the lace. And then this guy. Oh, that was lucky. Murphy's Law didn't get me that time. I would have had to get glue. off all of those if it did. And I believe we were going to put that guy there. So there you go, you've got lots of paper to stick that to. We don't have to worry about sticking the cotton to the page that's on the back of the buttons. There we go. So that's that one done. Now, what I had thought about was these guys here. So they're not in the right order. Whatever is cherished is kept. And that's kind of the whole theme of this journal. Probably the whole theme of all of junk journals, really. And I've got some label plates, and I was going to, yeah, it looks like it might need to be that one, do a little stamp around each of those. You could just rip them out. You could cut them out and ink them. It is completely up to you. You do not need these if you don't have them. Okay, so I'm just going to find my, oh, do you remember a few weeks ago when I said I lost this? Never found it again. I must have thrown it away somehow because I never found my stamp pad again. I had to buy another one. So I'm glad that I eventually stopped looking and had a hard word with myself and said, stop it, just get on with what you're getting on with, and tried to get it off my mind because, yeah, that wasn't happening. So it's gone. Brand new one. I will just grab a little stamp block. And I think I will go black because we have got little accents of black with the black playing cards and things. Usually I would probably go brown. Okay, there we go. So I will just quickly chop these out. Give them a quick ink. Okay, now we just need to decide where we want to put them, and also whether or not you want to put something else behind them. I was thinking maybe like I have that bit that I chopped off, and that shouldn't add too much bulk. Might just rough these up a little bit more. No, that one's got too many little bulky bits on it. That one might be a bit much. Maybe it's just a little bit of cheesecloth. So it sits nice and flat. think that will do. My stamps went a bit wonky. I think I pushed too hard, but I don't know. I think that kind of stuff is part of the charm of handmade items, especially junk journaling. I mean, I think the difference sometimes between junk journaling and scrapbooking is just that junk journaling is a little less perfect and a little bit more imperfect by choice, by design. That's just my opinion. Not that I think this page that we're doing right now is junk journaling at all. In fact, I think my journals, they're probably not, they are journals because they do contain writing space, and I guess that is the only definition you need to call something a journal, is that it has available writing space. It could be a decorated journal, but it's still a journal if it's got writing space. But yeah, I think mine have probably entered more of a, I don't know, a heirloom journal. I don't think I use enough junk, like junk mail, things that you throw away. I don't think I use enough of that in my journals to class them as junk journals anymore. The methods that I use and stuff are often things that you can use in a junk journal. Let me know what you think of that anyway. That idea that I'm not really junk journaling anymore. There you go. So that just added a little bit more interest there as well. Just curve him back up because of the glue. There we go. So I think that's a cute little page. You have oodles of writing space now. And you could decorate the inside, I don't know, put a little stamp on each page. That wouldn't hurt at all, but that'll just depend on what you've got and what you want to put on there. I usually tend to think that if the front of the page when you turn to it is pretty enough, then yeah, I'm pretty satisfied then. I might end up, this might be a page that could do with a little tab on here, I'm thinking. Should we do that? Why not? And I would just use, it doesn't even have to be this shape, it could literally just be a square, and I'm just going to put a few little bits and pieces on it. Just to make it interesting. Might just grab my little ephemera box. Okay, it's quite a large one, so no, I think no more circles, because we have enough circles and buttons on there already. Maybe just something like that. I want a butterfly on there. Do. Maybe not a brown butterfly, maybe it's black butterfly. There we go. I think that then draws your eye down from the black butterfly to the black buttons down the love little typewriter keys. I think that works. I was just missing something in terms of balance, and because unfortunately I have teacher artist brain and I can't, no matter how much I try, I can't switch that off, and it's just inbuilt into me thinking in terms of composition and where your eye leads, and it was starting there, it was going down, and it was missing a space up the top. Now you do have lots of these bits and pieces already in the folder for another make, little R labels and bits and pieces, so you should have lots of little bits left over. There you go. So now, and like I say, you do not need a whale tail punch. I think you can go just there. And now I think we start there, our eye starts there, and then it travels down the page. Hopefully you can see that. There we go, there's our little page that we made today, and when that closes up, I mean, she's always going to be, because the journals that we make together are always quite interactive, she's going to be a chunker. I mean, that's just something that we're going to have to deal with when we make the spine, but I think that's a gorgeous little page to turn to there. I mean, you could have even ripped a piece of paper and stuck it on the background so that you've got another little layer underneath stuck to the page, maybe book page or something. That could have looked quite cute too. But hopefully you enjoyed making that, and yeah, that you didn't mind sitting here and faffing around with me. All right, my lovelies, well, all the details will be in the description below, and until next week when we make our next page, thank you for being here. Okay, matua.